What'd you say? All right. KT, have everybody for roll call?
Can everybody go around just in case I can't see anybody?
Okay.
I think I can
Ben's
see.
here. Andy Clapper's here.
Lindsay Michaud.
Scott.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, that's it. Cool. Thank you,
Right.
guys.
First order of business, approval of January 2024 minutes. Does someone want a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
All second, all in favor?
Bye.
Bye.
All opposed? Great, minutes passed. Any visitors? None. Great, okay. Prop W questions and answers.
So this is for you guys. If you have any questions that you need answers to, please let me know. We've got some of these handouts here that are available for you guys at home. If you need any handouts, the same ones we gave you all last month, but if you want to take extras to give out to family, friends, neighbors, whatnot, you certainly can. We've also got the yard signs available that you can pick up for free here, or there's a form online that people can fill out and we'll actually deliver them to you, and so they go in your house, in your front yard. It's just a big QR tag basically that says scan me, and then it takes you to the city's website where there's more information. So other than that, I'm happy to answer questions. That's kind of what this meeting was mostly for. If you all have heard anything, you have any questions, so that you can provide good information if anybody's asking you all questions.
Scott, if I wanted to pick up a sign, can I just come there to the rec center?
Absolutely. So in the main foyer, right outside the ice rink, there's a few just sitting there all the time. But you can also come up to the front desk and grab one at the front desk. They're also available at City Hall, in the first floor entrance to City Hall as well.
Okay, good, thank you.
What's the most feedback you've heard so far? Just the fact of the prioritization of projects and wanting a voice on individual ones?
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, you've probably seen most of the same feedback I have if you're looking at any social media stuff, questions and stuff on Facebook. That's where you'd be getting most of the feedback. It's prioritization. There's some questions about, there's really two ways to do this. We kind of went over this last time. You get full hard costs on everything and then tell everybody exactly what it is we're gonna build, but you have to have the money to get all those hard costs first. Or say this is the list, that we're likely gonna do. We know we need to do the outdoor pool, and then the other things are all likely projects, and they'll be prioritized if the bond passes, if the residents all vote in favor of it. Not all, but the needed number vote in favor of it. Then we'll do more public engagement on what those priorities are and how big and what type of all those different individual priorities would be. So skate park, what are we really looking for in the skate park? Get the skate park users to help us out, ice rink, same thing, splash pads, that kind of stuff. So that's one of the questions that we've heard. I think Dan actually brought it up at our meeting last time. It's hard to give good answers and to people that are asking, and it's potentially hard to vote on it if you don't know what those priorities are and how much those projects are going to cost. We do understand that either both those features, whichever way you decide to go, have drawbacks. Because if you get the hard cost option, then by the time you go out to build stuff, maybe 3 to 4 years later, those costs aren't good anymore anyways, and so it throws off the whole project list. So the way it'll happen is it will, make those priority lists, and then the higher the priority, those are the ones that we'll work on first, and so that we have used that money down until there's no money left. We think we can get everything in there, especially if we use some of this as matching money and apply for additional grants and things like that to go towards it. So yeah, that's certainly been a big question. The other one is just everybody that has, everybody has one thing that they really like, really don't like, and why isn't my thing involved, or why isn't my thing bigger, or whatever that may be. So
exactly what you just said. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I think a lot of people like, acknowledge it makes sense to fix the ice arena, especially when we talk about the things that we. When I explained what we talked about, I think at the November meeting, in regards to that, it's revenue positive for the city and it needs to be done and everything like that. But there's a lot of people who would be good fixing the ice rink, but don't necessarily want to give the city carte blanche to do other things that they don't necessarily agree with. Is a lot of the conversations I've had with people have been about.
So when you're hearing that, is there a dollar amount that those folks you're hearing that from are more comfortable, less comfortable with, or is it just the idea of a 22 million when we've really said 12 million is the top thing, and then the other things or the other 12 millions will come once we get more input?
Yeah, I think people, at least the limited conversations that I've had with people, I think people are like, they don't necessarily, the big headline figure of $22 million is, I think what people, when you break down the individual projects, people are like, yeah, that makes good sense. Like you said, usually people have one or two things that like, I don't really think we should be, solar panels or whatever. But they have, a few things that they want to do, but they don't want to necessarily approve $22 million just to do it. I did get asked if the number will change based on interest rates. When we're forecasting out 5 years, if interest rates change significantly, will we be able to, update the figure based on interest rates?
I thought Eric said it was locked in, and that was really the big reason we wanted the full dollar amount, because we were locking in a great rate for the next, 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, 19. So yeah, once we sell the bonds and those rates are locked in, we'll sell the bonds at 3.2% or whatever that interest rate is. It's lower than the top rates that you're seeing out there, like, money market fund or whatever, because it's a tax exempt bond. So those you don't have to pay any federal or state income taxes if you buy those bonds on that revenue you're getting. So, and because of that, you take a lower interest rate, but you don't have to pay taxes on it, so it equals out for you. So I don't know exactly what that rate will be because we haven't sold them yet, but it'll probably be likely right now. I think I've heard it's around the 3% range. So as long as the rates stayed where they're at now, it would actually be fairly good for us, because we could then take that money that we're not spending because we haven't started building those projects yet, throw it in the bank, and we might earn 4% on it and only pay out 3%. So we might actually be earning money on that until we start spending those down as we're building projects out over the next 24, 36 months, whatever it may be. So no, those rates are locked in, so that should not affect total cost. The total cost will be more, the longer it takes to get things built, the more inflationary cost of goods or services just go up. And so, which is what happened with the outdoor pool. We were looking at it. I've been looking at it for the last, I've been with the city about 10 years. About 7 of those have been looking at this outdoor pool. That was 6 million, 6 million, 5 million, 5 million, 6 million, 6 million, and then it went to 12 million after COVID. And I was getting those numbers from the same 2 companies that bid on the design and the build of the project. And 2 years ago, they were both still at 6 million. And when they started doing the bid, they're like, well, yeah, it's been more like 12. I was like, well, wait, that's a lot more than 6. So we'll want to get moving and get as many things, if it passes, as many things built and in the hopper as we can, as quickly as we can, just so we don't see continual cost escalations there.
Is the reason we didn't put that information in something like this just overwhelming the average taxpayer? Okay, because it feels like that's probably been the #1 question I've received, and I know you don't want to overwhelm.
Is the interest rate question?
Yeah, like what benefit, why the $22 million number, and really wanting to know the math behind it.
Really, the $22 million number, that number came about because that's what the bonding authority is to keep this tax rate flat at what it is for no tax rate increase. So the bond rate, that we took out for the concrete streets in 2009-ish range, the city's paying those off. End of last year, beginning of this year, those bonds are paid off now. And so at that no tax rate increase, we can keep that at $22 million, and that's where that number came from. The original list of ideas that we put out to the public and the council was a little over $27 million, to give people choices and what they might want to look at, and council cut some of those out, to get it down into that $21 million range, so we have enough money to do the projects that are likely to happen. That's still likely, that doesn't mean any of those necessarily will happen. If everybody comes out and says new park's dumb, performance park is dumb, or whatever, or we start getting into the actual design phase of it and something skyrockets on the price of it because there's a pet cemetery or something, Indian burial ground or something like that we gotta go over, then, you know, that could all change. But that, if you're hearing that interest rate is a big question, that's something that we'll work on getting better.
And mostly within the context of, I think, what Andy was saying of just, boy, that seems like, well, there's some projects in there that don't seem necessary, and not sure why we're throwing all these in here as opposed to a select few.
Yeah, many of them were in our 5-year capital improvement plan already, you know, ice rink improvements, skate park improvements, things like that. There are some new, the performance park is one that's a new one that, city staff and city council kind of put together because it's not something that we have, in our park system, is a good central location to host outdoor events, whether that's a concert, whether that's you know, jazz band performance from the high school jazz band, or whether that's, you know, whatever it might be. We don't really have anything like that. We've got Gazebo Park, which gets used by the business districts a little bit. That's a little bitty tiny park. We do some concerts throughout the city in various locations, but they're all kind of smallish. You know, that sometimes that's a cool venue. You know, the Baroque Festival and such in Larson Park is a cool little venue, but man, it's 500 people there, it's packed, you can't hardly see the stage, if you're the 500th person to show up, so. Looking at something like that, that we might be able to put in that would bring something new and be something that will be around for the next 20 or 30 years. That was kind of what we're seeking, looking at.
I don't know about anyone else, but I've also gotten a question a lot from people. What does it mean for me if, you know, no, I think people generally, once I explain how there can be a no tax increase bond raise, it makes sense. But then people usually ask, well, what does it mean for me? Like, what will it mean for me if it doesn't pass? Like, if it passes, that means no tax increase. If it doesn't pass, then does that mean that I will get a tax decrease? And what would that actual impact? You know, how much am I giving up to fund the city for $22 million on an assessed value basis for the city?
Yeah, so it's you know, it's 20 cents on the $100 assessed value. So it's, you know, the taxes would go down if this proposition is voted down. So there would be you would pay less on your yearly taxes. And then when we wanted to do something else in the future, we would come back for another bond issue, then it would be a tax increase, which is typically much harder to pass than a not increase. And so, but yeah, that's a very valid question.
My point on that is if, yes, taxes would go down, but so would the condition of the facilities that we currently have.
Yep.
So would the offerings that we currently offer to our community. So, yeah, we could save some money, but we would see it at the parks. We would see it during the summertime when these kids are looking for things to do.
And you may
We will see those decreases in spending.
Yeah.
And as a community, I just don't think that that's a trade-off we should be, and you know, that we should be wanting to make, and I think that's why this is.
Especially like consortium tournaments, like the ice arena, especially.
Yeah, dilapidating features of your community. I mean, not having new and shiny is one thing, but having things that don't function anymore is, I assume, unacceptable to most of our community.
I did have one question on the indoor pool for just thinking about the separation between the cap and the OpEx. If they were to make it a permanent indoor structure instead of the bubble, would that be more expensive operational cost wise or less expensive?
Are you, I guess there's a couple added questions for me on that one. Would that, are you talking in lieu of an outdoor?
Correct.
So, or
you
in,
would still-
in addition to?
I guess in my mind, you still have what the middle pool or the competitive pool will still be separate from the rec pool. And if really the main point of the rec pool or the competitive pool is for the swim team and anyone who really does want to swim more competitively or the dive team, if you just made that portion permanently indoor, I know that would detract from the summer crowd of when they want to spill over and be in deeper water, but would that tip the scales on the OpEx?
Well, I don't know that I have a good answer for that. I can, you bring in less operating revenue for the outdoor pool because you'd have less pools for people to spread out and go to. But on the flip side, you might get more lap rentals and stuff if it was completely enclosed all the time.
Cause it just seems like it'd be a
Not
big
sure.
cost to actually put that bubble down and maintain it, the actual.
Well, it's not gonna be a bubble, I can tell you that. Yeah.
Whatever the enclosure is, yeah.
Yeah, so there's multiple things that we're still looking at and the consultants are still looking at on what that structure would look like. Some of them do have some costs that take them up, put them down. None of them you're taking all the way down unless it's the bubble, which I will fight tooth and nail anybody for not a bubble. The other ones have a steel superstructure. So some of them you leave roofing materials on, you take down the skirting on the sides. The one I really like is actually, it's a movable, I mean, it's kind of looks like a greenhouse. It's all glass panels and plastic panels, but it opens up like a dome stadium does. So all the panels slide back and nest into each other. So that one doesn't have any tear down setup type of cost. And you can really literally just flip a switch and it opens and closes. Takes a few minutes to do that, but I don't know that I have the answer to that on your operating expenses. Capital expenses, it would likely be about the same because you're still building the structure. If you were gonna completely enclose it and have a full indoor facility that's not a convertible facility at all, it would likely go up in capital expenses, I would think, to build it, because you would be building more masonry type of structure, which would be more expensive than a semi-permanent structure that we're kind of looking at. But I know that's not a good answer for you, but I'm not sure, I don't have an answer on that operating expense. I'd have to go back and ask some other folks questions on that. Our consultants that we did with the master plan, they were the ones that came up with those dollar figures from, because that's what they do for a living, is designing and master planning those types of things. Got it. I don't know.
So I have a question. Do we know, like, if this proposition is popular or unpopular? I mean, do we have any sort of way of finding out how this is being perceived by the entire public?
I'll find out in 35 days when we vote. That's not a good answer for you.
Yeah,
No,
no,
I
I
mean,
guess my point is that's kind of scary that we're putting the pool in jeopardy by this large amount of money that people may or may not want to spend on different projects.
right. No, it is very scary. I've been nervous about this for a while. If you're just asking my opinion, I'd say so far, I'm not hearing many folks say I'm voting no. You know, there's some folks, obviously there's folks that, like you guys have said, the number's high, it doesn't include my indoor pool, or it doesn't include my, whatever it is that particular person would like to see. But even a lot of those folks that have said, I wanna see this, I wanna see that, have said, but I'm still gonna vote yes on it because of all the other things that are involved too. Now, that's anecdotal, that's not scientific by any means, that's 5 or 6 people that I've talked to, or that have sent an email that I've read that said that type of stuff. But there are certainly a few out there, and I'm sure there's folks out there that are just straight up, no, I don't wanna do it, I don't go to the pool, I don't go to the ice rink, I don't go to this, and you know, I don't wanna vote yes for it. I'm sure that'll be the case. I mean, whether that's more than 40%, that vote no, I don't have an answer, but at this point, we're locked into this $22 million cost for this election. There's no way to change that. You know, that had to be submitted prior to January to get on the ballot. So yes, I understand your question that if it doesn't, you know, are we jeopardizing the current outdoor pool by asking for that? But that's what council has decided. That's what we've asked for. So at this point, it's a yes or no vote in April, and depending on what that answer is, yes or no, then we'll move forward from there.
Yeah, I get it, totally understand. So my second question would be, let's say we do get the money, there is a lot of flexibility in what's going to be done after we get the money.
Yes, tell me what you were asking about on flexibility wise, so I can answer you.
So one of the things that I've heard from is some of the people that have raised money for the skate park in the past, that they've had discussions with people in city government about this old McDonald Park becoming the skateboard park, and the old skateboard park becoming something else. Which seems to make some sense if you wanted to have that performance area or something that brings up a lot more space for you to do that there. That, and if you're gonna have a playground and you wanna take your kids to a playground, you're probably gonna go to Rocket Ship Park. You're not gonna go to some other park right next to it. Rocket Ship Park's probably the most popular park for little kids, 10-mile area. So it does kind of make sense to do something completely different over there. So I just curious if that's a possibility if we get the money overall.
Yes, so now I understand your question. So yes, there definitely is flexibility. Like I said, we haven't hired any kind of contracts or architects or engineers to help us design anything other than on the outdoor pool so far. So all those things would still be available and open. The new park at the old McDonald's property is owned by Great Rivers Greenway, and they are in the design phase on it right now. I can tell you it's not looking like a big, huge playground, anything like Rocket Ship Park. What they're looking at, they're at about a 30% design stage right now. So, you know, that park's less than an acre, so it's not a very big park at all. Most of that will be used up with the greenway going across it to make the connection to the corner. Some seating right at the kind of little trail node there with a bike fixing rack, likely a drinking fountain. There will be some play features of some sort in it. Likely it'll be wooden stumps and logs and things like that that you can climb on and jump around on, so it's not gonna be a destination playground, anything like Rocket Ship, you're right, that's a pretty sweet playground. They are looking at putting some skate features in there, but it's likely not going to be a full-on skate park. That was something that we talked about a year or so ago when some of the fundraising was happening. That was one of the ideas, was to potentially move the skate park down there. That turned out to not be something that the public really said they were hugely in favor of when the GRG did that survey last summer on it. And a lot of our skate park users are middle schoolers, so it kind of makes sense to have it here where they can come over before or after school and ride here versus whatever that is, 2 miles away from the middle school. So I think the skate park will likely stay here, but yes, all that flexibility is open, and when we start getting into architects to design that kind of stuff, they'll certainly have more learned experience than me just saying that, and you know, master planning on where all that stuff can fit. So, and the performance park isn't planned yet anywhere. I have an idea of where it should go out here, but again, that's not, we haven't done soil samples or had any architects lay anything out or anything like that, so, yes, there's quite a bit of flexibility.
The current working plans that I think were released, the most recent of the pool renderings. It was, when I looked at it, it kind of looked like they're expanding behind the ice arena a little bit, or at least further that direction towards the soccer field.
The slide tower, yes, goes towards the tennis building,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
So really not much more directly by the ice rink building. Pretty much where the fence line is there will be the same, but the current slide tower, if you took that and pushed it back onto the, part of it onto the old sand volleyball courts and butted up right against the back of the tennis building shack there,
Okay.
it would go back to there. Yes.
Okay, cause I almost couldn't tell because it looked like the competition pool was almost way, like even further back there, almost. I don't have the picture in front of me, so.
They're actually looking to probably flip the competition pool, so put the diving boards on the east end where they're currently on the west end.
Okay.
So that makes it look a little different.
Yes, yeah,
And then put more of the seating on the west end. And the reason for that is when you're there in the afternoons, if you're sitting there, you can look back to the east and not be looking into the
Directly
sun.
to the
So
sun.
if you're trying to watch your kids just swim on open swim, or if you're there for a swim meet, or dive meet or whatever, you're not facing into the sun as much. So, but really that section is really the fence line is still the same fence line.
okay, cause it looked different on the renderings, it's hard to tell on renderings what that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a cartoonish
Yeah,
drawing,
exactly.
artistic deal. There's a couple of questions that you brought that up that we've heard. Two of them was you can't really see any 0-degree entry. They're both the middle pool and the toddler pool both have beachfront entries. And the slide towers don't dump into the water, so they have runouts. So it's a big, long, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 foot long runout. So when you come down the slide, when you get to ground level, you just slide out until your momentum stops in that trough. And then, which you won't even get close to get to the end of it. And then you'll get out and either walk through the end or step out the side to go out.
And you're not going into it.
You're not going in, so then we don't need a lifeguard sitting at the bottom guarding people splashing into the water, so it saves us one lifeguard.
Okay.
And then you also have more water space to play in, because right now you can't play underneath the slides, so that whole big circle area below the slides should really only have one person in it at a time right now, but one person coming down the slides, so you'll have more water play area because the slides aren't dumping into the water.
The solar top cabanas, it looks like. Is that just part of a massive solar array that's all banked together, or are those just portable stations for charging somebody's phone while they're under the cabana, or?
Yes,
Okay,
Still in design, but they've got three little ones that are, that they're showing on that design that are between the top pool and the middle pool. And those are just three little, portable picnic tables with the solar commander, which will then power USB jacks and stuff to charge your phone and things like that on. We are trying to get my goal is to get all of the shade structures to be permanent hard roof shade structures that have solar panels then on top of them, as well as on top of our building, the ice rink, wherever else, and have all those feed into the network. So that actually provides the energy and power to operate a portion of this building.
right.
30%, 40%, whatever we can get of this building's energy usage all year long.
Yeah, cause it just seemed to me like if we're just running some USB cables, or a couple of ports. That seems like an awful lot of infrastructure to invest in for that particular family to be able to plug in
No.
their kid's iPad.
No, those little picnic tables really aren't that costly. They're not much more than any other table with just a top on them. But those are only three little small ones to put where there's no wiring going in. Most of it will be jacked into the network's not the right idea, but the grid.
The grid, sure,
Yes,
yeah.
so it'll feed this building.
Okay.
And we'll use all the energy that they can provide for sure.
Yeah, makes
So,
sense.
and then more, so.
So I had one other question. This one might be for Karen. It's about Jen Starkey resigning, and she's our public affairs person. So without that person in place, is there somebody else that's going to help communicate Prop W? Is there somebody else that's manning the computer with information that needs to go out?
Well, I know the city manager is already working on making sure that we still have that support going out. There's a new position that's going to be posted, and that position is going to be around the PR as well as helping with other community engagement type things. But I think that yes, that has all been taken into consideration to make sure that we still have that same robust PR and engagement with the city. And I think one thing, just in listening with the questions and everything, to keep in mind that, again, as Scott indicated, some of the things that were or suggested on the list were things that were in line for capital improvements to be done anyway. But some of the other things were brought up by citizens. I mean, we requested input to know what were the things that people would like to see. Nothing has been definitively responded, but I don't think we had a really, well, I guess it's relative, but Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking there were like 600 people that responded when we first put out that request for input on what they would like to see seen with those funds. Our hope is that if that passes, now that people know that that's actually a reality, what's possible on the table from a funding perspective, that more people will engage and step up and let us know what it is they do want to see or how they would prefer to have those funds allocated. And then there's also always the point that we, just because we have it don't mean we have to spend it. Now, you do also look at, is that a balancing act between not spending it and seeing things not being updated or repaired or what have you. But I just wanted to mention that because, again, we clearly strongly have asked and will ask again if that passes before anything definitive is decided about the funds over and above what it costs for the pool. It's for community input. What do you want to see? And also there's going to be some open houses, different times. We're in the process of scheduling those now, where several dates will be given where a couple of us at a time, council members as well as the city manager, will be available for people to come in, sit down, ask questions, talk about the project or the opportunities prior to the election. So those are dates that will be formalized and will be published so that people, and there's dates, the schedules are gonna be through the weekday and through the weekend, day hours as well as evening hours. We're trying to make it as flexible as possible so that if people want to come in, sit down, talk and ask questions, will be available for them to do that prior to the election.
Are these flyers here, laying around these buildings? For users of these?
Yeah,
facilities?
you can certainly take them. We've been handing them out at meetings. We don't necessarily have them, and they're on the website and maybe put them out on social medias, but I don't have just a ton of them just laying around for
Right.
anybody to pick up and grab. But you're free to take. That's how many I have right now, but we've got more at the printer that they're getting printed this week. And I can get more if anybody wants, you know.
I guess my question was, besides the yard signs, what other marketing, for lack of a better term, are we doing for this bond?
So there's a lot of social media stuff. So if you're on Facebook, they're doing a couple different posts a week.
I like some of those.
Yeah, there's, feel free to like those as many as you want and share them too. That gets more eyeballs on them. They're producing some more videos right now, so there'll be more, I don't call them interactive, but more than just something to look at and read, explaining. They're doing one right now that they're almost finished with on the charter review items, the 10 things that are on the charter review, explaining what those 10 things really mean, because when you get into reading, it's like reading the Constitution. When you read the charter, it's something, it was written in the 50s. So it's a lot of that stuff just needs to be updated with, instead of, it's, persons, or, just antiquated language on some of the stuff. So that's what a lot of those things are, but videos that are explaining that. We'll continue to have more marketing coming out as we go to all these meetings, and we're finding the questions that aren't being answered well or enough. That's what we're then using to focus those additional marketing resources on. So like Councilwoman Alexander said, we'll be having some open house meetings here soon. We'll have more flyers out. There's staff and council folks that are available to come to your PTOs, your Chamber of Commerce, anything like that. We can set up and come speak and give the information to those for 10 or 15 minutes in one of those meetings and such as well.
That was my point, is that, when you talk about parks and recreation, there's a lot of parents of school-age children that I would think would be at least eager to listen to things like that. So I was just wondering how we were reaching out specifically, being here at the ice rink with parents that are already up here using facilities, or at the any part of here, the rec center, but maybe even at the high school and the middle school, and some way to reach out. I don't know about meetings versus banners versus whatever. I'm not the marketing expert, but.
Yeah, we've got signs up, in the lobby, that basically these two documents are on big posters that are hanging up right in our lobby. So we're hoping people see and read those. But yeah, pretty much anybody that requested, if we can make it happen, we'll be happy to come speak at their hockey club group or their PTO or their swim team group or whatever it might be.
And the QR code's always out there.
The QR code's always out there. There's more information literally coming out weekly as we're hearing. Well, it's not always new information, but it's repackaging some of this information as we hear questions, trying to better answer those specific questions that people are asking.
All right, any other Prop W questions before we move on to the new park? Right, Scott, new park.
Yes, the last meeting, we discussed that we need to name this new park, and so I was hoping that if anybody had thought about it over the last month, to talk to grandma, got any crazy good history about the area over there or anything. Or brainstorm just anything about what a name might be, I'm happy to hear it, and as Great Rivers Greenway and the city starts putting that public engagement process together, we can start using any names that you might have as our starting point to figure out what we're gonna name Old McDonald's Park, because it won't be Old McDonald's Park.
Well, it does kind of sound.
It's growing on you the more you say it.
Well, I keep saying it, nobody else is like, nobody else is going, I thought I said, you can think like you're far, but, so, if anybody's got anything, I'm happy to hear it. If you don't, that's fine.
I know, I like Oxford because the street, I like that name, I thought, I mean, it's really simple, but Oxford Pass, because it's on a greenway. But that was just without, I looked around that area, I was kind of trying to think of something for the history, like you said, because that would be something good, but I couldn't come up with anything, so it's.
I like that. The only other idea I had, not being a history buff myself, but there was an article in the Times about a particular football player, and it was something like that, and that just made me think, all right, if you're gonna go the route of naming, do we reach out, is there a Webster Historical Society that we should be talking with, or give us a name, give us 5 names, 3 names of some
It's not a bad
prominent
idea
figures.
for the past like 50 years or something.
It's something, somebody that you've read about but hasn't been recognized somewhere. It's not the Hawken family, it's not the whatever, I don't even know that story either. I think that's not even from Webster. Did they move that from Crestwood-ish? I don't really know,
Like on the edge, I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure,
but
yes,
yeah.
right on the border.
It's like I said, I'm not the history expert, so I don't have those 3 names. I wasn't able to come up with anything, but I do like Oxford. That's catchy. It's my mother grew up on Oxford, just up the street. House that's still
Anyone else?
I'll second the reaching out to the historical society.
Agreed, that's good.
Okay, have we ever named a park like after a Webster Group celebrity? Like, the only one I can think of off the top of mind is the Office lady, but like, I'm sure there's others.
Phyllis Diller.
Ivy Crockett Park is probably the most recent one,
Yeah.
after Mr. Crockett running the 100-yard dash the fastest. Other than that, anything that's named was done in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when that was donated to the city by whichever family owned the park or the parcel. The Frederick S. Plant Park and Nature Sanctuary was the Plant family. Blackburn Park was the Blackburn family. Larson Park was the Larson family. So, nothing recently, and nothing of celebrity type status, other than Mr. Crockett. It was named after, he's the only one that it's named after, and not the family who owned the land.
Yeah, and he's come back several times.
Oh, yeah, he lived here for quite a while. He lives in University City now, but he still comes over to the park when there's special events over there too. So, yeah.
And I guess that was my thought of like, if, I know the tradition is probably naming it more for a historical figure, but if there is somebody that,
Yep.
would champion it or increase the publicity or whatnot, that.
I was thinking too, maybe something like what was that area, maybe even before it was, industrialized, I mean, before it was made, something like when it was a natural area, before when Webster was like a lot of like kind of farm land, because it was, and like orchards and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like maybe if we found out what was there right then, like how we have Old Orchard, or how we have like, I mean, that's the only example I can actually think of, but something like that, like if it was a creek, I know there were a lot, there was more water, there was other things, so maybe there's something that
So
kind
that,
of dig a little bit, I might get some books from the library, just kind of see if I could come up with something else historical that was in that, not maybe exactly right there, but that neighborhood that maybe had a special significance to the history of that neighborhood, because I thought that might be something neat.
So when you buy a commercial property, you typically get what's called a phase one study done to make sure there's no chemical oil spills, things like that, that you're gonna have to, be stuck on the hook
Yeah,
repairing years down the road. And so that's part of that study. They go back and look at what was on the property, for like the last 100 years or such. And it was in the early 1900s, it was just basic field space, and that property was actually bisected by the creek, and then the creek moved off of it, and then the creek moved back onto it, and then it looks like sometime maybe in the 70s, there might have actually been work done to the creek to move the creek off of it into its current location. And then it became more of an industrial site in the 70s there. That's what I'm reading, so if anybody's lived here in the 70s and I'm totally wrong, feel free to tell me I'm totally wrong. But yeah, since then, it's been the various warehouse type structures and commercial buildings before it turned into McDonald's in the early 90s, it was.
So Scott, will you reach out to the historical, or do you need?
No, we can certainly do that, yep.
Yeah, if you didn't read the article in the Times, it's Walter Smallman, Webster High graduate and athlete that broke some barriers.
football.
I believe so. I would suggest reading.
Thank you for that input, everyone.
Right, budget request for Parks and Rec.
So again, last meeting, we asked if there was anything that y'all wanted for budget requests. Historically, this commission has not really asked for or needed any funds. Most of the stuff that y'all do is advisory for the Parks and Rec. But for instance, the Green Space Advisory Commission, which is also underneath Parks and Recreation's umbrella, they requested $250 for Arbor Day celebration to make flyers for and buy the actual Arbor Day tree to plant. They team up with Sustainability Commission on the Eco Ed series, so they've got a couple $100 they've asked for that series to pay for speakers and things like that. So if there's things like that you all have thought of and that you want to do, I need to know tonight so that I can put that into our budget, which is actually due in the City Hall next week for me to submit. So if you have any ideas, let me know. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. You don't have to go seeking anything. But we're putting that out there to all the commissions if there's something that they want to do to let us know. Seeing none, moving on. Thank you.
Boards and commissions presentation with City Council, May 15th.
So just this week, did you get that email?
I did.
Okay, that happened yesterday. So there will be a special council meeting on May 15th, where all the boards and commissions will give our annual report to the council. And also if there are any budget requests, speak about those at that time so the council can put them into their thought processes, whether they'll be approved and whatnot. So it's pretty simple. Anybody can come to it, anybody can present at it, typically your chair would, but if he's not available, if anybody else would wanna come, or if somebody else just says, I'd love to go present, it's open, let me know, or let Ben know. This is basically the document, it's really easy, it's who you guys are, what your purpose and mission are, which we've already got on the bylaws. It's prior year accomplishments, it's what you wanna do, work plan for next year, and any budget request. So it's really a simple thing. I can put together what we've already done last year, the budget requests, which we don't have any. So it's really annual work plan. And I can pretty much put that together unless again, there's something that you all are interested in wanting to do new. I'll put on there that you are planning on reviewing and revising, or not revising necessarily, but reviewing our fee structure like we always do. That's one of the big things. And then, if we get back into good weather, if we start the secret shopper program for our parks again, where you guys are going out, checking out the parks and coming back and letting us know. Anything that may be happening, need that out there, but if there's other things you all want me to put on there, or Ben to put on there, we've got a month before we even submit this, so think about it, we can talk about it at the next meeting. And then Ben and I will put it together, get it submitted, and figure out if he wants to be the one to come present it. The presentation shouldn't be long, it'll be just a couple minutes, because they're doing city council's hearing from all 19, I think, commissions that we have, so it'll be a big meeting, so be limited amount of time to present, so.
Intimidating with them all on that elevated platform up there, but.
It may not be at City Hall, so we're still looking for a location. I think that might be a court night or something else was already happening in the council chamber, so we have to find another location for it, so it might be here, it might be at some other auditorium somewhere. So.
Yeah. All right, next up, Councilperson Alexander, do you have anything?
Well, I spoke earlier about the bond, but one thing I did want to bring up is I received a phone call, and we also received a letter as well from one of the citizens, Mr. Ralph Halston, and it has to do with people not adhering to the leash laws with their dogs. And I mean, and I've heard it quite frankly, but he was really upset because he had a particular instance at Larson Park where, you know, his dog was basically attacked. He's trying to save his dog and get his dog away from these other dogs. He's 81 years old. You know, he could have been hurt, you know, extensively. His dog was able to get away from him, get away and run home. But he sent a letter, and Scott, I think you've gotten a copy of it. And when I talked to him for quite a long time. And one of the things I asked is if he had some suggestions of how we might do things better, to let us know. And a couple of the things that he suggested is just having better signage at the parks. He talked about perhaps having police officers in the area or patrolling them a little more and just reminding people of the laws. I just wanted to really bring that up, and I just think that it's something that we need to probably been pretty silent or lax on it. I don't know, but it can create a pretty dangerous situation. I mean, I have a dog. I walk my dog all the time, but you know, I don't let my dog out my front door without being on the leash. And I have a friend, and we go back and forth because our dogs play, but he tends to think that his dog will mind so he won't hurt anybody, and she only wants to play. I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know what the dog is going to do. You don't know what other people think of your dog. And so just, if there's something that we can do, what possibly can we do to be more visible and more vocal about these leash laws and adhering and holding people, making people accountable?
I'll admit to this group, I've called the police non-emergency line about dogs off leash, specifically at Larson Park. Because in the last 2 weeks, I've seen 2 dogs attack other dogs at Larson Park. And I have a little, I have a little kid, you know, who's like that tall, and she runs around the playground, but people people let their dogs run.
It's kind of been one of those parks that's kind of an unwritten thing that everybody does that. It's been.
They do it
like
at
that
Blackbird
for-
too. I
Yeah.
mean, I go to
That one's
Blackbird
not as much,
multiple
but-
times a week. And without fail, every single time I'm there,
Yeah.
there is at least 1, if not 4 dogs
Yeah.
off leash at the soccer field playing
Signage.
chase, or just down in the open field that's closer to Edgar.
They do
And then
it.
just open the car door and let them run free.
At Castlewood, what they started doing was they put more signs up and they just had police out there reminding people, hey, it's $200 ticket. if you need to leash them right now, and they just tell you to leash them, cause I just take mine out there and let them run out before it was as busy as it is now at Castlewood, and it's definitely a deterrent if they're like, you're gonna pay $200 right now,
But again,
so.
that's something the police would have to do. That's
Yeah.
nothing that we as a parks,
Yeah, I mean, we could mention it to them that this, hey, we've heard this is going on, we need you to ramp up your presence there.
the laws are in place, correct?
Yeah. They kind of just. work
And
the
so
other way.
PD has been, Larson has been our problematic park. It happens at every park, I agree. Larson historically has been our park that had more issues with dogs off leash. I don't know if that's the specific dogs that are off leash or if it's just not as big as Blackburn, so there's more people in tighter space
Never heard of
or what it
Blackbird.
is.
I thought it was.
The police are going to Larson over the last couple weeks. They've been there more often and they've been talking with people. And I don't know if they're writing citations, but we've certainly done that in the past where they've been out there. A couple years ago, they sat there for about a week and they wrote several dozen tickets and people were not happy about getting tickets, but it slowed down the off-leash dogs for the rest of the summer. This time of year, when it starts getting warming up, is when it
Is
seems
there
to get
signage
worse.
with The thing that says the ticket price.
So the signage is at Larson Park, but one thing I was gonna say is a lot of people who, I mean, I'm at Larson Park pretty much
Baseball
every
field
day.
free sign.
So people usually who are coming with their dogs, they park there in that long rectangular lot. And they go straight towards the baseball field and the sign is over towards, if you're going towards the playgrounds.
Yeah, I
And
think you
so-
need a sign in the area by that little swing set by the baseball field. Cause a lot of people come from that way.
People do come from that side and then they walk across, I think just big signs on both, I mean,
And like-
signs on both
like
sides that say.
Castlewood, it has the fine amount on there, it's $200, like that's a deterrent.
I mean, some signs you can just adhere to or fix to the chain link fence of the backstop or something like that, just to get a few more out in the parks without investing in ground hole digging and, post hole digging and all that sort of stuff.
I can say from my experience, I could put a sign every 10 foot and there'd just be dogs off leash peeing on those signs. Because people don't read signs. I'm not saying I won't put some up. There's also just so many entrances to that park, like where do you put enough of them to?
Well, and with
Get 'em to
with
come
the
in.
guy that called, was there another person there, or do you think maybe it was dogs from the
No.
neighborhood that are just being allowed to run because the people that live there think, oh, they go to the park and they come back to my house?
There were people there with their dogs.
There
that
were
just
people
weren't.
there. Okay.
The dogs were
I'm
out.
just wondering if
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't even a park goer, it was someone in the neighborhood.
Cause that
they
could
just-
happen, and actually, honestly, I'd be more, I mean, if you're letting your dog go out to the park, that's one thing.
Yeah,
But a dog that's on the loose that gets into mischief is not a problem. The problem is that, like I said, the door opens to the car, the dog goes chasing running to the field, and the owner immediately grabs the little tennis ball stick and just chucks that tennis ball in the middle of the field. And, and then I'm walking my dog on the path, the dog runs up to me, the owner says, oh, they're friendly. Well, that's fine, but my dog is not friendly.
Yeah,
right, and that.
I'm not friendly.
That's why my dog's 4-foot leash is on, because, and so I think enforcement, I think is what's got. Like saying we can put up all the signs we need.
I mean, what if you put up a sign that just said like, hey, if you spot an off-leash dog, call the police non-emergency line, here's the number. Cause there's a lot of parents, when I actually, now that I'm hearing more details, I actually think I was there when this incident happened. It was an older gentleman who had a
And a
bigger
little
dog.
corgi.
And,
Right. Mhm.
well, I'm talking about the dog that was off leash. There was,
Oh, okay.
the dog that was off leash was like a bigger kind of mix. And it was an older gentleman who was kind of like waddling after his bigger dog and was kind of yelling after it, but like had no hope of catching the dog. And the dog went and like accosted 3 or 4 different groups of people who had on leash dogs in the park. But like all the parents who were there at the playground were like, what, like, so if you put a sign by the playground that just said, hey, if you have if you see someone with an off leash dog, call the police, call the police non-emergency line. There's a lot of parents there who are like, what are these people doing? And then, I guess my other idea is like, are there sanctioned off-leash dog places that people, like, that we, has there been any discussion about
We've
having,
talked about a dog park, but we don't have one.
like an outlet, right, just that says, hey, look, you can't let your dog off leash at Blackburn, but this section of Larson, you know, there's a chain infection section over there that.
There's
Another
liability
good
issues
reason to have a
on
dog park.
It was just. I think it
Exactly.
was The maintenance was what we talked about the last time, because it's costly, I mean, it's not just, there's cleanup issues, and just maintaining it, but it sounds like it.
Right, and even from I mean, so for example, I have a membership at the Brentwood Dog Park. So for citizens, it's $25 a year, and for non-citizens, it's $50 a year. And it's completely chained in, and it's all gravel. There's no grass that has to be cut. There's no, there's benches that's around there in different places for it to sit. It is divided so that you have a part for the small dogs and a part for the large dogs. But what you have to do is every year you have to sign an acknowledgement that you are responsible for your dog, that you cannot sue the city of Brentwood, that if in other dog owners there know that you have to, if you have any issues with your dog or somebody else's dog, you have to take it up with the owner. The dogs have to be spayed and neutered. And it seems like there's very little maintenance to the place because it's all granite. I know they probably have to go in a couple of times a year and put down more granite or level it out or what have you, but I mean, I just think that, and that is something that a couple of people put out as a suggestion when talking about something to use these funds for with reference to the bond issue. But I mean, I think we're having more complaints about people with dogs and needing a place for them to run and play openly and socialize with other dogs. And so maybe it's a time for us to start to revisit that. But I really do like the idea about a sign. If you see somebody off leash, call this number. And also, and I'm going to bring it up in city council meeting Tuesday night too. If we need to have a citation, ticket writing, whatever, again, if that was beneficial before to help deter it, I think it's something we need to do. But I just think that it's not a good situation to have people running around with these dogs off leash and to actually feel comfortable enough that there's no repercussions so they can just continue to do it.
In this case, like the season and say something sign, I think that would be a deterrent. If people are like, oh, someone else from my neighborhood is that upset about this, they put this here, they're gonna call on me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might even be
That's the
better.
thought that enters my head, and when I
It's
see
like,
it,
oh, I'm upset.
is do I really call
Like,
something about this? I mean, I don't have an incident today.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just bothering me because I'm following the rules and that jerk is not, so. Usually the answer is no, I'm not gonna call anybody, I'm gonna suck it up, I'm gonna complain about it, I'm gonna go home and tell my wife how awful it was.
It's like, what if your dog got hurt, though,
Right, exactly, if it escalates beyond that, then
between your.
I should have said something, so maybe, like you said, maybe putting up that sign, this is a problem, if you see it, say something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious,
It's scary though, I had a dog almost get out of a yard on Grant's Trail because their fence was broken. And I went to their door and I was like, is your dog mean? Because I was really scared it was gonna get through that hole and come at me. And I was like, I'll mace your dog, and I will, because I don't wanna get in between my dog and a dog fighting.
Absolutely.
So they're like, no, he's very nice, but he does not.
Well, it doesn't help it doesn't help that Larson, the people who live at the corner, whose property abuts Larson Park, they have a chain link fence as their back fence. There on the playground, and they have like probably two of the most aggressive dogs. So people let their dogs off leash, and there are two dogs, a lot of times were barking their heads off right there. And then, dogs run through to try to
And they
get.
may have a, what's that underground, like the fence.
Oh, they have a chain link, the
Oh,
dogs
so
can't
they
get through, but they have just very aggressive dogs who live, and it's not, they live on the park, that's just like, that's their property.
Yeah,
Invisible fence would be the death.
that's what I was thinking. The.
Oh, yeah.
Get in,
When you're walking down a sidewalk and this dog just comes barreling up to its line of demarcation, I don't know that it's gonna stop.
Absolutely, that
Is
scares me,
today,
yeah.
is today the day that it's gonna jump through?
I'm curious what the Brentwood Parks Department, how they feel after they've had a dog park for a few years. As far as what the ongoing costs are, maintenance. Or something like that.
I don't have an answer for that. I know when I was in Richmond Heights, we partnered with Maplewood and we ran their parks, and the dog park in Maplewood was just opening when I was there, and then I left shortly thereafter. It was it was something, because you get pulled into the my dog bit your dog bit my dog, and then just some staff member has to be the judge, jury on who gets to stay, who gets to go, who's gotta come. And then just the maintenance on it, they put in, I think theirs was all grass when they put it in, I don't know if it still is or not, but some of them can get pretty costly to maintain depending on what you've got in there. So, and some of them cost, you know, you can do it for $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, or you can spend $700,000 running a dog park, and just like anything else you do, so.
I feel like a lot of people would just be happy with the field where the people, because that's what they're gonna do most of the time is run. If you wanna take a dog down, what is that place, the Bar K, if you want all the amenities, go there. And it's awesome, but for what their basic needs are, is just running, being able to run
Right.
freely.
Okay, well, thank you, but that's what I wanted to bring that up but I think that we've got to do something because that just can be a dangerous situation. And I
Wanna
think
put
it,
signs in there, can we do that? I mean, I think it's a good idea. But
We're already looking at that, and I know the PD's already been in there
okay,
working on enforcement. So.
thank you.
I'll start making phone calls when I see them.
I'm just glad that no one got dirty that last incident.
Scott, do you have anything else?
I didn't prepare much for y'all because I figured we'd have a pretty full Q and A about, and most of my stuff would have been Prop W. We're opening up the parks for summertime right now, getting stuff going. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
This is worst case scenario, if Prop W doesn't pass. I mean, is there any risk mitigation or any type of plan like that going on, or it's just things are gonna go downhill fast and the public's gonna pay the price?
I mean, the pool's gonna open this summer no matter what, so, and the ice rink's open no matter what right now, so we will continue to operate, everything that we can, in the conditions that they're in, so, if it doesn't pass, April 6th, April 7th, the war will go on. The bigger question is what happens 2 or 3 years down the road, at some point, I'm not gonna be able to keep water in that pool. Leaks are gonna overwhelm our ability to fix them and continue to maintain them. So, but is anything in immediate dire need that we wouldn't open? We haven't started filming it yet this year, but as my answer right now is no, the pool will still be open. So we would just need to take a look at, down the road, what do we need to do? So, we know that these things all need to be fixed and repaired, and replaced and renovated. I feel that they do, but if that's not what the community feels is the priority, then, it's your all's community, I just work for you all, so.
Do you think maybe, I feel like almost wish it was separate for repairs and these new things, because if some of these new things are keeping people from voting yes on it, then we're kind of stuck not being able to fix the things that need to be fixed. is there a way to, if it doesn't pass, come back with just the things like the tennis court repairs, the pool repairs, and then arena repairs, the things that really need to be repaired?
Well, some of that stuff, we have the city has a capital improvement budget, which is where a lot of this stuff normally lives at, as well as a park improvement budget, which is a sales tax, that's dedicated for parks and stormwaters. So some of those lower ticket items, have been in that CIP plan in the past, and we would continue to. If it's replacing a pipe breaks in the pool, we would try to replace that pipe. If it's, we need a new ramp at the skateboard park, we would be able to have money to buy that new ramp. But it would be the smaller ticket items, if the ice rink slab floor fails, that's $1.5 million project. And if it's an emergency repair, and we're not playing for it, the ice rink will be shut down for 6 months. If we can plan for it, we can do it and have everything bought and ready to go, then we can maybe redo that in 2 months, and plan for it and not have hockey camp scheduled for that summer or whatever it might be, or games or meets or what have you. So, yeah, we'll be able to, the lights will stay on, we will keep things up and running. We're not, nothing's imminent failure, but other than the pool is definitely on its last leg. And the ice rink, that slab floor is something that's worried me for a while. We used to carry it in the capital budget for $1 million some every year in case it happened. And we've been pretty successful with closing down for the 5 or 6 weeks every summer. That allows that permafrost to melt out, so the slab's not heaving as much, and staying, within an inch or so tolerance across it. So at some point, we're just one big leak away from the pool with all that water going underneath the ice rink and then it freezing and making a bunch of permafrost that heaves that thing up and hoses it up. Yeah, two big expenses in one go. Right next to each other, yeah, so, but yeah, if it gets voted down, the lights will stay on and we'll still be operating in May and June and July. It's just, what do we do in 2025 and to 2030 on these facilities? We may not be able to keep the pool open in 2030. Or it might be $1 million a year and to keep it open, which wouldn't make sense when you could rebuild a whole building for 12 years. That'd be good for 30 years, so.
I have a question about the project going on next door. With the parking tonight being out on every street around here. If I'm seeing it correctly, there is now no direct access from this parking lot into that parking lot without that little outer road that they've got built.
Correct.
So are we still gonna have access to that parking lot? Or is it gonna be off limits when all is said and done? I guess that's up to the school.
From what I've been told, yes, we will.
Okay, they're not gonna gate off the parking lot or anything, they have no plans to do that at this point.
I believe there are gates on that lot, but I don't know if those gates will be shut or not.
Okay.
It's not my lot, so I can't say, but
Okay.
it is something that has been.
Yeah, we've
Worried
clearly
about
noticed
talking
that
about.
there is limited parking here now that we have closed that so accessible overflow.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's been an issue for us, at several of our big events, even tonight, it's not even that big of an event, but when Nutcracker was here or something, a big wedding reception, when you're bringing in another 300 people or something, it's parking is tight. There's about 550 total parking spots between Hickson's property and our property when we did the 40 acres master plan. Our property only has about 180 of those, so the lion's share of those parking spots were the Mossfield lot, so.
and there is no plan for expanding that in any way currently.
No,
Okay. Good to know.
Any other comments before we set the next meeting? All right, I'll make a motion to set the next meeting to March 27th. Is there a second? All approved,
I,
all opposed? And I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
I.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Doug, do a whole, how's our new Zoom system? Was it easier to hear and see everything?
Yeah, yes, much easier. I'm not looking at the middle of the table, which is usually what,
Got a little better camera, so they installed everything yesterday, so I'm still trying to dial it all in a little bit, so.
It sounds a lot
Yeah.
better too.
Good, great.
Looks good.
Thank you all, have a good night.
all right, good night.
I'm glad someone said something about the